On May 15, 1967, at Quang Thanh Hill in Quang Ngai, the South Vietnam Liberation Army launched a surprise attack on the defensive stronghold of the Blue Dragon Brigade, part of the 2nd Marine Division of the South Korean Marines. Quang Thanh Hill, strategically located, had the potential to control the vital roads connecting the coastal area to the western regions of Son Tin. The Blue Dragon Brigade, equipped with modern weapons and professionally trained, was notorious for its brutality and combat prowess. This unit played a key role in the U.S. search and destroy strategy, conducting sweeping operations that resulted in numerous crimes against civilians and the Liberation Army. The attack on Quang Thanh was not only aimed at destroying a military stronghold, but also had deep symbolic significance. It was a confrontation driven by a desire for revenge for the massacred people and the strength of a well-trained army. The Blue Dragon Brigade attempted to defend the position with trenches, bunkers, and underground tunnels, but the Liberation Army was determined to wipe out this outpost to disrupt the enemy's strategic plan. The South Korean Blue Dragon Brigade had built a fortified defensive position at Quang Thanh, featuring robust defense works like deep trench systems, concrete bunkers, and securely dug underground tunnels. The area was protected by 7 layers of barbed wire, with lethal mines and directional mines densely placed around. The bunkers and trenches were strategically arranged, allowing the enemy to easily observe and react promptly to any movements of the Liberation Army. The strategic location of Quang Thanh also allowed the South Korean forces to control the northwest region of Quang Ngai, cutting off supply lines for the Liberation Army from the plains to the resistance bases, making it difficult for the revolutionary forces to move and resupply. Thus, capturing this outpost was not only of military value, but also had a significant impact on the morale of the Liberation Army, as it threatened the survival of resistance bases in the region. However, the Liberation Army faced significant difficulties in approaching this stronghold. The South Korean defenses were solid and tightly protected. The terrain around Quang Thanh was also unfavorable for attacks, with dense hilly areas that were hard to navigate. To overcome this defensive system, the Liberation Army had to use sophisticated commando tactics, moving stealthily and utilizing the cover of darkness, alongside simultaneous attacks from multiple directions. However, the strong defense and well-established fortifications of the South Korean forces made the attack extremely arduous and challenging for the Liberation Army. The battle at Quang Thanh on May 15, 1967, was not only a military confrontation, but also a battle with profound significance in terms of fighting spirit and the determination of the people of Quang Ngai. After months of brutal sweeping operations by the South Korean forces, which caused immense suffering to the civilians, particularly women, children, and the elderly, the people of Quang Ngai had endured unimaginable pain. The barbaric actions of the South Korean forces fueled the rage and determination for revenge among the local population. The situation worsened when hundreds of innocent people were brutally murdered, driving the morale of the people of Quang Ngai to a peak of hatred and the desire to seek justice. The Liberation Army fighters, from regular soldiers to guerrillas, fought not only for military objectives, but also for a greater cause: to protect the people and reclaim justice for those who had fallen. Their fighting spirit was greatly fueled by the pain of loss, the brutality of the enemy, and deep patriotism. They did not see the battle at Quang Thanh as just a military task, but also as a revenge for their massacred people. The soldiers carried the determination to win in their hearts, vowing not to give up until they achieved their goal. They wore white mourning bands on their heads to honor the innocent victims, and the slogan, "Tear the green dragon apart, rip the tiger's body apart," was written in blood, becoming a powerful declaration of war, reflecting their spiritual strength. With this goal in mind, the Liberation Army decided to launch a direct attack on the Quang Thanh stronghold. This was an extremely difficult mission, not only because of the strong defenses of the South Korean forces, but also due to the complex terrain and fortifications. However, these difficulties did not diminish the fighting spirit of the Liberation Army. On the contrary, these challenges made them more determined. The 1st Regiment of the 2nd Division, tasked with leading the attack, prepared for the battle with both strategy and strong fighting morale. Although every soldier harbored concerns about the chances of success, patriotism and the determination to avenge their people helped them overcome fear and prepare for the attack. The units involved kept motivating each other, uniting with the common goal of eliminating the enemy, securing the lives of the people of Quang, and destroying the Kwangtan stronghold to break the strategic encirclement created by the South Korean forces. Throughout the preparation and execution of the operation, the Liberation Army not only focused on tactics but also placed special emphasis on ideological work. The commanders organized meetings to strengthen the spirit of the troops, encourage them, and motivate their determination. The spirit of teamwork, sacrifice, and courage of the soldiers became an invisible strength, making any difficulty on the battlefield unable to stop their progress. The soldiers in the attacking formation saw each step forward as one step closer to their goal, not only for glory but also for justice for their people. This determination was clearly demonstrated in every combat action. When the attacking units encountered difficulties such as communication failures and getting lost in the dark, the soldiers remained patient and waited for the right opportunity. They gradually adjusted tactics, flexibly changed attack directions, and seized every small opportunity to get closer to the enemy. The Liberation Army did not give up, even as the situation became more difficult, with only one goal in mind: to sweep out the invaders and bring freedom to the people. Kwangtan was not only a military fight, but also a testament to the strength of will, bravery, and perseverance of the people of Quang. Despite facing numerous difficulties, the Liberation Army not only won on the battlefield, but also made a strong impact in terms of spiritual victory, asserting that nothing could stop the determination of the Vietnamese people in their resistance against foreign invaders. The battle at Quang Thanh was conducted with meticulous and sophisticated tactics, fitting the goal of completely eliminating the fortified defense of the South Korean forces. The Liberation Army fighters used commando tactics, taking advantage of the night to approach their target stealthily and unexpectedly. The attack process relied not only on firepower, but also on flexible coordination between multiple attack units from various directions, aiming to exert maximum pressure on the South Korean forces. On the night of May 14, 1967, in the thick fog and darkness, the Liberation Army began to move close to the target. The battalions of the 1st Regiment, 2nd Division, were tasked with the main attack and secretly approached the pre-prepared entry points. The commando units placed mines, dug into the enemy's trenches, and prepared explosives to break the fences. Additionally, secret demolition teams, known as secret demolition squads, were assigned to open the dense barbed wire surrounding the stronghold. Secrecy was the most important element in this tactic. The Liberation Army primarily launched their attacks at night when the South Korean forces, although well-trained, were at a disadvantage due to their inability to assess the situation around them. Moving in the dark with thick fog made it impossible for the South Korean forces to detect the Liberation Army's infiltration, creating surprise right from the start. The Liberation Army not only attacked from one direction, but also launched simultaneous attacks from several different directions. The 1st Regiment, 2nd Division, was divided into 3 battalions. Battalion 40 handled the main attack from the south, Battalion 60 attacked from the north, and Battalion 90 was assigned as a reserve force, ready to reinforce the other battalions if they encountered difficulties in the attack. These battalions were clearly assigned specific combat tasks. Battalion 40's mission was to reach the central area of the Kwangtan stronghold, destroy the enemy's command post and fire positions, while Battalion 60 would attack the outer trenches. Determined not to give the South Korean forces time to prepare a counterattack. To achieve this, the attacking units were quickly assigned to open the entry points to the enemy's defensive system in the shortest time possible. The battalions destroyed the barbed wire fences and quickly charged to occupy the trenches. Maximizing the effectiveness of the commando units, the soldiers used the terrain and darkness to move and attack unexpectedly, minimizing damage. The battle at Quang Thanh was extremely fierce. The Liberation Army faced strong resistance from the South Korean forces. Although the battalions successfully opened the wire fences and entered the enemy's defensive area, the South Korean forces launched determined counterattacks from their trenches and bunkers. Especially, the South Korean forces were well prepared and highly disciplined in their use of defensive firepower. The intensity of the battle was evident as the South Korean forces used artillery, mortars, and long-range weapons to retaliate against the Liberation Army. Clashes near the enemy's bunkers and trenches were intense, with Liberation Army soldiers facing a continuous hail of bullets. The South Korean defenses were very solid, with many soldiers hiding in underground bunkers, using grenades to repel the Liberation Army's attacks. Despite suffering heavy losses from the enemy's firepower, the Liberation Army units continued to advance. Despite the difficulties posed by the terrain and the fierce resistance from the South Korean forces, the attacking units kept pushing forward, expanding the encirclement and taking control of each trench and bunker. This process required not only physical endurance, but also a great deal of mental toughness, as the Liberation Army faced setbacks in some of their attacks and encountered intense resistance. One of the key elements in the Liberation Army's attack tactics was a combination of strong weapons and commando tactics. One of the special weapons used was flamethrowers. At a critical point in the battle, Battalion 90 deployed flamethrower soldiers to approach the South Korean forces' bunkers. With powerful flames, the flamethrowers burned the South Korean soldiers hiding in the bunkers, destroying their morale and providing an opportunity for the Liberation Army to attack the center of the South Korean defense. In addition to flamethrowers, demolition teams continued to be effective in breaking the enemy's strong defenses. The Liberation Army kept increasing their firepower and quickly seized the outer trenches, cornering the South Korean forces and preventing them from organizing an effective counterattack. Ended with a significant victory for the Liberation Army. They broke through the South Korean defenses and captured most of the strategic positions of the stronghold. Although a small group of South Korean soldiers continued to resist at the final positions, the Liberation Army's military victory was assured. The Quang Thanh stronghold was eradicated, and the South Korean forces were forced to retreat. The battle was not only a military victory, but also had a profound impact on morale. It was a testament to the tactical brilliance, bravery, and determination of the Liberation Army, showing that with a combination of commando tactics and determination, even the strongest enemy positions could be defeated. The Quang Thanh battle became a symbol of victory and pride for the people and army of Quang Ngai in the resistance war against the Americans. The results of the battle at Quang Thanh on May 15, 1967, were not only a military victory but also had wide-reaching impacts on morale, politics, and strategy. While the Liberation Army could not capture all the enemy forces and a group of South Korean soldiers still held out in the final positions, the battle achieved important objectives and had profound significance, causing a shockwave within the South Korean forces and the international community. Military victory. The battle at Quang Thanh broke the long-established South Korean defense system. After more than 6 hours of intense fighting, the Liberation Army captured most of the strategic positions of the Quang Thanh stronghold, nearly annihilating the South Korean forces stationed there. The coordination between the battalions, using commando tactics, explosives, and flamethrowers, helped the Liberation Army quickly take the trenches, break through the barbed wire, and defeat the South Korean firepower. The enemy's strong defenses were completely destroyed, with the Liberation Army killing about 420 South Korean soldiers out of the 500 who had been defending the stronghold. This result marked an important victory, not only because it cut off South Korean control in the Quang Thanh area, but also because it demonstrated the effectiveness of Vietnam's commando tactics. The battle at Quang Thanh was the first time a South Korean-controlled stronghold had been directly captured by the Liberation Army. This proved the growing capability of the Southern Vietnamese forces in facing modernly equipped and well-trained military forces like the South Koreans. South Korean forces. The battle at Kwangtan had a profound impact on the morale of the South Korean forces. The Blue Dragon Brigade, known for its formidable reputation and fierce fighting capabilities, faced an unprecedented, humiliating defeat during its time in Vietnam. Although the South Korean side later tried to create a victorious image to calm public opinion, the Liberation Army's breakthrough at Kwangtan severely impacted the morale of the South Korean soldiers. Many South Korean soldiers even committed suicide or shot themselves in protest against the order to continue fighting, reflecting the confusion and disappointment within their ranks after the battle. The situation worsened as South Korean soldiers in other outposts began to express fear and resistance, with some soldiers even reaching out to guerrillas, committing to go through the motions, as long as they were not attacked. This reflected the deep psychological crisis in the South Korean ranks, not only due to the losses in men, but also the concerns over continuing to fight in a highly dangerous and difficult environment. Political and psychological impact on the international community. The battle at Kwangtan also had significant political and psychological implications in the international community, especially for the U.S. allies. The defeat of the South Korean forces at Kwangtan weakened the credibility of the South Korean government, as well as the strategies of the U.S. and its allies in maintaining control in South Vietnam. This battle clearly demonstrated that the seemingly impregnable strongholds built by international forces could be seriously threatened by commando tactics and the fighting spirit of the Liberation Army. With this victory, the Liberation Army not only strengthened its internal confidence, but also made a significant impact on the international community. The battle at Kwangtan inspired revolutionary forces worldwide, affirming that with smart tactics, high determination, and popular support, even powerful military forces could not defeat the will of a resilient nation. Thus, victories like Kwangtan contributed to the strengthening of the position of the Southern Vietnam National Front in its struggle against foreign interventions. Strategies of the Liberation Army and the U.S. The victory at Kwangtan had significant implications for the strategies of the Liberation Army and the parties involved in the war. This battle was not only a military win, but also marked a shift in the tactics of the Liberation Army. Breaking through a heavily fortified South Korean stronghold demonstrated the effectiveness of commando tactics while raising the prestige and determination of the Southern Vietnamese armed forces in confronting forces equipped with superior weapons and numbers. For the U.S. and its allies, this battle was a major shock. While the U.S. and the Saigon government tried to propagate that the South Korean forces had won the battle at Kwangtan, the reality was a significant defeat. This not only weakened the morale of the military forces involved, but also proved that the U.S. search and destroy strategy in Vietnam was not always successful. The battle at Kwangtan reinforced belief in the power of resistance and gradually led to a shift in the U.S. approach to the Vietnam War. Consequences for the people of Quang Ngai and historical legacy. After the victory at Kwangtan, the people and army of Quang Ngai created an important historical legacy. This battle was not only a military victory, but also a symbol of the fighting spirit, the revenge for massacred civilians, and the resilience of patriotic devotion. The achievements at Kwangtan will forever be remembered, becoming a significant inspiration for future generations to protect the nation and preserve the proud fighting tradition of the people. Immediately after the battle, the Southern government erected a memorial at the site of the Kwangtan victory, turning it into a site for educating the youth of Quang Ngai, reminding them of a glorious time in the resistance against American imperialism. This battle will forever remain a symbol of the heroic victory of the Vietnamese army and people, proving that no fortress is invincible in the face of the willpower and determination of a resilient nation.